Alright, how's it going, everybody? So I'm going to explain the basics of making a vowel sound in Massive. And first off, I'm not going to tell you how to make a specific sound. That's not the point of this tutorial. The point is to show you the key points of making a type of sound, because it's irrelevant to talk about how to make specific sounds. That doesn't teach people anything. But my goal is to tell you the method for making a type of sound, and in this case, that's vowel sounds in Massive. So there are, to start out with, we'll just hit a new sound. But there are lots of oscillators that work for this. Anything that you can click on it and hear lots of formants when you move this wavetable here. When you move this wavetable position, if you hear something that sounds like a yaw sound, it's a good sound to use. So that's pretty self-explanatory. And then, of course, there's ones like dirty throat, gentle speech, modern talking, deep throat. These just sound like good oscillators to use. But play around with things. And my favorite, I think, is probably deep throat. I think that's the one I like to use. I'm going to route that to the first filter and just turn that one off. And we're also going to turn the noise oscillator off, and that's that. Alright, so get those where you want it. It all depends on the sound that you specifically want to hear. These settings are relevant to actually making the yaw sound. That comes from two things. First of all, you want a low pass. I highly recommend low pass 4. The difference is that the low pass 4 is going to have twice as much effect. Think about it this way. If you used a low pass 2, it would be the same thing as the entire dial fits within half of what a low pass 4 is, if that makes sense. So the low pass 4 you're going to get a lot more effectiveness out of in most circumstances. But it is a lot more severe, so if you wanted to just create like an evolving sound, you would more likely use the low pass 2. But beyond the point, turn your resonance down a little bit. So find your sweet spot, the sound that you want to hear in between where and where. And then just hook it up. In this case, with a sign on top, like in a bell, and then you've got the saw wave going down on the bottom. The closer you go towards the saw wave, the more of a yoy sound it becomes, and the more towards the sine wave that you go, the more of a yaw sound that it is. Especially if you switch this around, but I'm going for a yaw sound, so we're actually going to use a triangle wave here. And okay, so then the next component, I said there are two things that really make this sound. The first one is the low pass filter. The second one is a sample and hold. And you're going to turn your dry wet all the way up or almost all the way up. It's up to you. Then turn your pitch right in there somewhere. You're going to have to feel this one out by listening to it. So, that right there is the sound, and honestly, I could end the video here, but of course, there's a little more to it. You want to add a tube, some kind of distortion. It all depends on the type of sound. Runner tube is always pretty safe. Okay, it's nice to add a dimension expander, but be careful with this one. I find it's nice to go around here. And then some EQ. Probably want to turn your boost up. Your frequency might be turned down a little bit there. Again, it all depends on the type of sound you want to make. What these settings here will be. You just have to really feel this part out and listen to it, you know. And then also recognize that really what really makes your sound unique, what really makes your sound yours, will mostly come from what you add outside of Massive, other EQ and maybe reverb or whatever that you want to add, other effects from Ableton or other plugins, VSTs, or whatever DAW you're using. Whatever it is, what you add outside of the sound is what really makes the sound yours. So keep that in mind. So this is the sound here. The obvious next step is to make this LFO a performer here. So really, if I'm looking for something, if I'm trying to find a performer that I like, I just keep hitting this random button, switching between waveforms, finding something that I think is interesting, and then when I find something, I'll go into here and I'll tweak it around and I'll select the part that I like. You know, you can select out parts of the waveform to be played and not played, and so you know, you find something you like and then you can just kind of hone in on it and play around with other stuff, other parameters, whatnot. And that's what it's all about right there. I mean, I took the basics that I showed you and converted it into a different sound. And I mean, you can do the same thing. It's all just about listening to the sound. And then the other thing is just start attaching your performer to stuff. See what that does, you know. You'll be surprised how much range you can really get out of a sound just attaching it to things that change the sound in a certain way, or even things you don't know what they do. Just play around, see what you can find. You'll come up with some interesting stuff. So there you go. That's the basics of making a vowel sound in Massive. And leave me a comment. Tell me if you found this helpful and useful, and if you want me to do more of them in the future. So that's it. Peace out, folks.